This is Abnormal Entertainment.
2, 3, 4.
Walked into the tunnel just to find the light. Hunted for old demons, looking for a fight. Looked up at the stars, seemed to go forever. There must be a way, it all fits together. Fell into the quicksand, held on to the vines. Never could quite color, stay within the lines. Feels like I have wings, I can fly wherever. This is just a way, it all fits together. Finally saw the world through rose-colored glasses. Gonna share my journey to small and large masses. Give up on my life, no sir, me never. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Garza and welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I'd like to start as usual thanking my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyer, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Inviting everybody to check us out at abnormalentertainment.com, where you can find all the shows on the network. Also, you can check us out at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Look for Daniel G. Garza or at Little Mexican, LILMESICAN. Check out everything I have on my guest, everything that's going on, new interviews, pictures, just random stuff that I like to throw in there. Go check it out. I want to start today because I think we have a lot to talk about. I want to introduce, basically a new friend, colleague, I guess we could call it, Guy Noland. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's it, yep.
Comic Guy Noland. How you doing, sir?
I'm excellent, thank you.
For those of you that have been following a little bit on my Facebook and Instagram, you know that I'm taking a stand-up comedy class. And we're done. The day we're recording this episode, it was our last day of class. On November 3rd will be our showcase.
The clock is ticking.
Yes, and I still don't feel prepared. I still don't.
You killed it. You crushed it.
Did I really?
You did great.
Thank
You did great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Guy and I are fellow students, colleagues now, you could say. But you've been doing stand-up for a little bit, correct?
A little bit, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I started doing. I did stand-up years back, like open mics. The open mics, and then I just kind of like let it go, and then just about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago I picked it up again and came back and started, I was looking around for an outlet and a way to do it, and then I stumbled across the Cool Beans class.
Okay.
And I did one class, and I went, this is really great, like great way to develop the material, and so I did it a couple more times, so this was the third time that I've done it. In the class with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. I saw these guys at SAG for a workshop, and I did some anal jokes.
And Matt would have liked that.
Yes.
Matt likes the anal jokes and the dick jokes. He's a big fan of those.
And then Corey is like, can you bring it down a little bit? And we were messaging one night, and it's kind of like this mom and dad thing where dad is mad, oddly enough, because he's the gay guy. That's the butch one. And he's like, yeah, more dicks, more ass. And Corey, little Midwestern, is it even the Midwest?
I think he's Midwest, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Little straight boy.
Like Iowa or something like that.
He's like, could you bring down the nasty a little? It just hurts my ears. So
that's what I'm saying, is that, for us straight guys, the butt talk, it's a little uncomfortable. We don't know what to do with that. We start shifting in our seats like, oh, he's talking about the anus again. I don't know.
And the weird thing is that I come from an advocacy background.
Right.
So when I go out to advocacy workshops or conferences, and there's people from all over and from different elements or situations, whatever, to talk about cancer or HIV and make a joke about dying or something, everybody thinks it's hilarious.
Right,
I mean,
right.
to talk about somebody who's in a wheelchair and tell them to slow the fuck down, or, you know, can you walk over here or something?
Right.
It's hilarious. We think it's funny.
Right.
But in the real world, it's kind of like, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, well, I think, though, too, it's a big part of comedy, though, too, right, is being able to joke about things that maybe make light of things that maybe really aren't that funny. But the key is to be able to say, like, you know, you're Mexican and you're gay. You can make jokes about being gay and being Mexican.
Yeah.
I can't.
No.
You know what I mean? I can't. I can only make fun of being a white guy who looks like a racist. That's all I can. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's my.
And then it's the audience. I really do love when somebody not Mexican makes a Mexican joke, points out something that we think is obvious.
Right.
And I think it's the most hilarious thing in the
Well,
world.
see, that's the thing, though, too, is I think most Mexicans do. See, that's the thing, like, because I grew up in Orange County, and those people who know Orange County, in Santa Ana. Like, I grew up in the barrio. I mean, like, it was... So I grew up with around all Mexicans, and I know that the culture of Mexicans is to laugh at being Mexican. You know, it's kind of like same as being Irish. It's very a self-deprecating kind of a culture, right? And so I know that Mexicans, but the problem is that people who aren't Mexican don't know that, so they get very uncomfortable if I start making jokes about Mexicans. They go, the Mexicans are on the floor. Cracking up. Like today when I said, see, the Mexican gets it. Right,
The
everyone else
thing,
went,
oh my God.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to give the joke away till after, because once we do the showcase, they'll put the videos off for us. I don't want to give away the joke, but the moment I pictured it, I was like, oh my God, like I know that spider.
Yeah.
I know that spider. He hangs out with me.
What you looking at, fool?
It was hilarious. And nobody else got it.
Right, yeah.
Which is kind of odd because my part of my set is all about Latinos, and not everybody's getting it. So I'm counting on my Latino friends to come to
Well, that's important too, though, right? Because, actually, you know, speaking of growing up in Santa Ana, one of my best friends since I was 10 years old, who grew up in the ghetto with me, is going to be there on Saturday night, and he's now a doctor.
Wow.
He came out of the ghetto, and he got his MD, and he's a practicing physician. But I know that he's going to be there. So, you know, that it's important to have that audience that you know that's
at least one more person will get my Mexican jokes. That's an interesting put it together story. Somebody who picked themselves up and got out and did something.
He's got a great story.
I look forward to meeting him.
Yeah, he's got a great story.
Now, I'm going to be honest with the folks listening, because I was honest with you about this. I was a little scared of you. I was a little like, I'm going to keep my distance from this dude. And I confess to you that although, again, my audience knows I'm pretty spiritual, I worked a lot with energy, so I really trust my gut and my energy. And you have a great energy. But the visual, I was like, him and I are not going to mesh. We're not going to connect. Right. And I was like, fuck. So for people who are watching this, listening to this on the podcast version, you're going to want to go over to YouTube or my Facebook page and see the pictures of Guy, because then you'll get it. You say it in your sets.
I have to.
Like you are this. Go ahead.
Well, I have to open with it because it's the elephant in the room. You know, for those listening, I look like a white supremacist, skinhead, Nazi. That's what I look like. And I walk out on stage and I know that's the first thing that people are thinking. And it's like, so on the stage, the first thing out of my mouth it has to be, I know what you're thinking. You know, who called the Klan rally? You know what I mean? So that people...
Now I think it's funny. First I was like, is he for real?
Yeah. Because that's the first thing, and they can't get past it. And I've literally, I've gone in, performed, in front of houses where I don't point that out, and you can feel it in the room, like, where, you can feel the tension in the room, because they're like, because literally, especially in today's, with everything that's going on, with politics and everything today, it's, people want to know that where you stand before, especially if you look like me. They want to know where you stand, and is it okay if I laugh at this guy because, he looks like a Trump Nazi, and, unless I address that straight out and make light of it and say, I get what you're thinking and I get what I look like, that's not who I am, you know.
But it also, I think, okay, I'm going to be honest, because it also has to do with where you're dropped. Like in a straight world, in a straight bar, I would be like, yeah, this guy, just keep your distance.
Right.
In a gay bar, I'm like, well, there's dinner. So it just depends.
Right. In context, right?
Yeah.
But I get it all the time, though. So that's the point, is that it doesn't matter where I go. And I get people, and I was having this conversation with my wife, actually, when we were, chatting, on Facebook. And I said, oh, yep, Daniel, this thing, I get this all the time. Daniel was intimidated by me. And what I get typically is one of three reactions. Either people who aren't intimidated by me, there's no problems. But I get people who have that are intimidated, and it's either they stay away, like they keep their distance, which is sad. I don't like that. They befriend, which is what you did. You made the conscious decisions, like I've got to overcome this and befriend.
Right.
Or they attack. And I get those three things are fairly common. And especially, like, I went back and did got my MFA a couple years back.
Oh, cool.
And walking into a university class with a whole bunch of liberal arts majors, it was like you could feel the tension in the room, because they were just like, and a lot of them never got over it. You know what I mean? Like, they could just never move past. And I had some of them later, some of the people who weren't intimidated later say, oh, some of those people were so intimidated by you. And I'm like, and what did I ever do or say to them to make them feel that way? And it's like, nothing. You never did anything. You just showed up. It's kind of like the joke I made today. I don't have to do anything. I just have to show up.
And
I people are scared.
And I told you too that it wasn't so much, it wasn't anything you did.
Right.
It was just my way of looking at things. It
Right.
was my own, I wanted to be intimidated. I wanted to make it about me, and like, this guy's gonna hate my gay jokes. And, you hadn't even heard any of my jokes, and I was already making you the evil guy.
Right. I did hate him. Had nothing to do with that, though.
They were bad at the beginning. No, they were bad.
No, I'm just kidding. They're actually very funny. You got to go and see Daniel. You got to see him perform. It was very fun.
But so I overcame that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to interview this guy because I want to be friends with him, because now it's a challenge.
Right.
I want to see what he's about.
I'm glad you did. And
then we ended up messaging each other at one night, like schoolgirls, like, oh my God, that's so funny. Gossiping about everybody in the class.
Particularly Matthew Moore.
Matthew Moore, yes.
Yeah,
when he hears
it's just so much
when
to
he
say
hears
about
this
that
and
guy.
watches it, he'll know.
So much to say.
He'll know what it's about.
Yeah.
So let's get started, because there's a lot, and we already took up 10 minutes.
All right.
So, Guy Noland, tell us, how do you put it together?
Well, I didn't put it together for a long time. It took me a long time. I grew up actually like I told you, in the reason that I grew up in a bad part of Orange County was because both my parents are pastors, and they pastored a church in Santa Ana, right down in the midst of, the bad neighborhood, the barrio of Santa Ana, the ghetto down there, and that's kind of where I grew up. And I come from a long line of alcoholics and addicts, and of course I didn't think that was going to be me. That was them. That's their problem. That's not my problem. And it didn't take long before I kind of fell into that trap. Now, I grew up, being into the arts and being in theater and doing all of that stuff. And so when I was 18, moved to LA to do the whole LA thing. And it was pretty quick that, that drinking and partying on the weekends in high school, turned into partying every night, especially in Hollywood, where there's just so much opportunity. And my brother's 2 years older than me, and so since he turned 21, basically I turned 21, because I just took his ID and went down to the DMV and said, here's my ID, here's my birth certificate, get me an ID. And back then it wasn't digital, so they didn't cross-check, they didn't do fingerprinting things, and, you just, okay, here's your California state ID that says you're 21. So at that point, the governor was off, and alcoholism kind of set in pretty quickly after that. And I spent about, probably a good 15 years, in the middle of alcoholism, and back and forth, and, not wondering what was wrong with me and why I couldn't drink like everybody else and what my problem was. My lowest point I remember was, basically I was homeless. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know that that's what homelessness was, but I didn't have an address. I did not have a mailing address. I was living out of my car and couch surfing on all my friends' couches, and I did that for a number of months. I didn't know that qualified as homeless. Like, I was homeless and I had no idea.
It was just a way of life.
There's a way of life, right? I just, just bounced from couch to couch for a while. And I remember the low point was that my parents had moved out because of their job in the church that they worked for. They got transferred around a lot. And so they got transferred out of country. And so they had gotten this, one of the storage units. Okay. And so I put a bunch of stuff in there, and I remember I was standing at the mouth of the storage unit, and I was thinking, if I need to, I can put that mattress down and then grab and get my bottle of vodka and go in here, and I can do a couple of days in here. And I remember stepping back and thinking, wow, I've really hit bottom here,
You recognized it.
I recognized. It was a moment of clarity, but that wasn't enough for me to get sober at the time. I had a few bouts where I'd get sober for a month or whatever. I'd have those kind of moments of reality, that I'd go, okay, I need to get a handle on this, and if I could just quit drinking for a month, 30 days, then I'll be fine. And it was around that time too that I went, I remember I was broke. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place. I didn't have anything. And I'm driving by a Subway sandwich shop, and I'm looking at this $5 footlongs, right? And I go, and I'm like, oh man, I'd love a sandwich right now. And I'm like, but I don't have $5. Like, I don't have $5 in the bank. I don't have $5 in my wallet. I don't have $5 in my shoe. I don't have $5 in the world. Wow. To stop and get a sandwich. I'm as broke can be. And plus, I remember thinking, I could get a job today, because I was basically unemployable. But I'm like, I could get a job today, and within 2 weeks, I still wouldn't have money for another 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Until I got that first, I've got no money, and now to this day, I remember thinking, I'm going to get myself out of this, and I will never let myself get to this point again, ever in my life. I got to get myself out of this hole. And that's what that I went and got dry. That I didn't go through a program. I went to church and I got dry, and I'm going to get dry, and this is, I'm going to stop doing this. And I didn't drink for a year. Wow. And I did. I got myself out of that hole. And within a year, I went and got a job, at Universal as a ride operator. And by the end of the year, I was middle management at Universal Studios. I was running their whole day-to-day entertainment operations. Wow. All their live action shows. And the idea, because I had grown up in the industry, in the business and theater, and I knew this stuff. And so I was like, yeah, everything's going great. Yeah, I guess I could have a beer, What's a beer? What's one beer? I could have a glass of wine. Everyone's going out. All the executives are going out. Hey, come on out with us to Carl Strauss's, let's go have a beer. Yeah, I think I've got a handle on this now. My life's good. I got making money. I got a new car, and, and it didn't take long before I was, boom, right back down, and really, I'm surprised I held on to that job as long as I did. But at the end, I always said I was probably the best manager they had. It was as far as technical know-how and dealing and managing people and unions and things like that, and the attractions and the shows. But I was probably the worst employee that they had, because I'd roll in at noon, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, just whatever. And being a key exempt employee, they couldn't really do anything about it until it came time for layoffs. And then my name was right at the top of the list, right? And get rid of this guy. And again, started that downward spiral back down towards the bottom again.
Did you realize you were spiraling again?
Not until later. It still took a couple years, because what would happen is then something else would hit. And then I mean, this literally, I got fired or laid off a month after 9/11. So 9/11 hit, and a month later, they laid us off. Well, right after that, I get a phone call, because I'm a filmmaker, a documentarian, and I get a phone call from the Salvation Army on the Eastern Territory in New York. Hey, we've got all this footage of the day after 9/11 that we want to do all of this. We want to do a documentary of this, but we don't know what to do with it. Would you be interested in coming out? And I'm like, heck yeah, fly me out. And so then I spent the next money, and they got another big chunk of money, wrote and directed this documentary about the Salvation Army's work in aftermath of 9/11. So that kept me going for a while, right? And so basically, the way anybody ever gets help, or is they hit rock bottom, is they bottom out usually. And so as long as I could keep going from bottoming out, I wasn't gonna acknowledge that I had any problem. I'm still managing this. And it still took a couple of years to where, I had a nice apartment right outside of Warner Brothers Studios, big 2-bedroom apartment. Came back from New York, bought myself a nice, muscle car, hot rod, GT, Mustang GT, and I was like, I'm living it up, man. This is great. I got everything going. And then the work dried up. And I was too busy drinking and using to go out and start and try and drum up more business, because when you drink like I drank, I'm drinking till 4 o'clock in the morning and sleeping until 2 in the afternoon, getting up and just, fighting a hangover all afternoon just to do it all over again. And so in that maybe 2-hour window where I'm not totally hungover and not drunk, I wasn't doing any business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I feel good right now.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna move.
Yeah, right. So it didn't take long then after that I then started to recognize the bottom coming up at me, and I went, no, I needed to do something like.
What were the reminders?
Well, I could see that my bank account was dwindling, and there wasn't anything replenishing it, and I just remembered that day of being outside that sandwich shop and not having any money, and I'm like, I've got to do something here, and and at first you're like, okay, well I'll find a job, but I'm not taking anything that pays less than $100,000 a year, and then all of a sudden I'm down to like, I'll. Nothing that's less than $20 an hour, and then I finally get to the point where like, all right, I'll work for minimum wage, but I was still unemployable.
Hey, $20 is $20. So
yeah,
what do I got to do?
Yeah, I was still unemployable, and so I'm like, because again, even to get a minimum wage job, you got to get up and go to the interview. Right. You know what I mean? And I said, I need to stop drinking for I need to do another 30 days, just get myself straight. And I went to the liquor store. Usually, and here's the other thing, is that I never kept alcohol in the house, because I had convinced myself that if I don't have alcohol in the house, I don't have a problem, right? So I'll just buy what I need every day, and which meant that at 1:45 in the morning, I was on my way to 7-Eleven to get one more bottle of wine just in case at 2 o'clock I wasn't drunk enough. You know what I mean? At 2 a.m. I wasn't drunk enough. Which always wound up with me getting, because the 7-Eleven, they always put their clocks forward like 10 minutes just to make sure that they don't accidentally break that law. So I would always walk in and they'd be like, no, we can't, it's after 2. But they'd leave their wine out. So I would grab a bottle of wine and I'd take a $10 bill and I'd hand it to the guy and I'd go, I'm not stealing it and you're not selling it. And I'd walk out. I did that all the time.
You knew your way.
Yeah.
All right. How tough is it to live on that seesaw of, I'm recognizing it, I'll take care of it. Okay, I'm good now, let's party. Okay, I'm taking care of it. Because it has to get exhausting.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that really, For me, it was, I don't think I ever really fooled myself into thinking that it was okay. Like, it was never really a seesaw. It was more just like that the whole time.
Right.
You know what I mean? I never really fooled myself into thinking it was okay. I always knew in the back of my head that I was different than other people. Like, I watched how other people drank and how other people dealt with life. And you know, and it's only until after I got sober that I started, people would say, "Oh, we were so worried about you." I'm like, really? Because nobody ever said anything. You know what I mean? One of the things was my best friend, who was my drinking buddy at the time, who was probably just as bad as an alcoholic as I was, definitely was. But I remember him pulling me aside and telling me he was worried about me because he lived next door and he would hear my GT, you know, fire up at 1:45 in the morning every morning, and he knew I was driving drunk down to to the liquor store, and so he's like, "I'm really worried about you," and that was another like ping, like what? Wow, like what's going on? But I still didn't think I was an alcoholic, right? Like I decided I was going to quit for 30 days, and I went and I bought my bottle of wine, and you know, and I had it there, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm not going to drink. And I poured it all down the sink.
Wow.
And I went and I paced in my living room, and 10 minutes later, I was standing in the liquor store again.
Yeah, because I remember the similar position for me was I worked at a restaurant at the very worst of it. I worked at a restaurant, I was off Tuesday and Wednesday. Monday night, I would stop on the way home and pick up my bottle of wild turkey that would be gone by Tuesday night or Wednesday night.
Yeah.
The liquor store guy knew me, and it was that and 3 packs of cigarettes because I smoked then. And then I would call my dealer on the way home so that he would be there by the time I got home.
Right.
I knew it was bad when my dealer's wife texted me and told me I had a problem and that she would not sell me anymore.
That's bad, yeah, when the dealer won't take your money anymore.
Yeah, because her husband went to jail and she took over the business, and she was like, "You have a problem. I'm not selling you." I'm like, "I'll find another dealer." Like,
right.
Screw you. And then I figured, I don't have a problem if I'm doing it every day. That's a problem.
Right.
But if I buy enough for the 3 days that I'm going to be off, that's not a problem.
Exactly. Right.
That's smart.
Right.
Right. I'm not one of those people.
Right. Well, that's the same thing I did. I didn't think I had a problem because I'm not an alcoholic. So the guy sitting at the bottom of the freeway off ramp with a sign, that guy's got a problem. Exactly. That guy's got an alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic, you know. But that night, you know, I couldn't. Every time I'd come home with more alcohol, I'd pour it all. Like I'd go to take a drink and be like, "No, I said I wasn't going to do this," and I'd pour it all down the sink again. And 10 minutes later, I'd be standing in. And so I did that probably about 3 or 4 times that night. And I finally went, I can't do this. Clearly, I can't do this on my own. Like, this is a problem. And so I picked up, at the time there was internet, but for whatever reason, I went to a phone book and I looked up AA and called the AA helpline. The gal who answered told me, there's a newcomers meeting tomorrow night down at Burbank AA, and I lived in Burbank at the time, and I said, okay, that's perfect. And I went down, and that was my first meeting. It wasn't my last drunk, but it was my first meeting. You know, I went into this meeting and went, what the hell did I walk into? Like, it was June. And that was the other thing. It's my birthday is at the end of June, and so I was like, I don't want to go through another birthday. I want to be sober for my next birthday. And so it was it was at this little it's called Unity Church, and tiny little church, no AC, packed with people. It's just like 105 degrees, and I'm already sweating anyway because I haven't drank, and I'm like, just. And people are clapping and they're saying things in unison, and they're, everyone, hi, my name is Dan. Well, hi, and I mean, it's just like, what kind of cult did I just walk into? Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, but I go, I'm not gonna. I go, I went through all this. This was like one of the hardest things I ever had to do was to walk in here. I'm not leaving until I talk to somebody, and because all I wanted to do was get out of there and climb into a bottle. Like, that's all I wanted to do, And I talked to somebody, and the person I talked to wound up being my sponsor. And I looked up, and there was all these men. It's at the end of the meeting, and I went and talked to the guy who was he's a fairly well-known celebrity, and I recognized him. So I recognized him. I'm going to talk to him. And I went and shook his hand, and he gave me his number, and I looked up, and all of a sudden there's all these men around me with their hand out and giving me their numbers, and I got teary-eyed. I was like, wow, this is like, why do these people care? You know what I mean? Like, and went home and got drunk, but
To celebrate.
yeah, right.
Of course.
The first time in my life, it didn't work. Like, I always hear people say, oh, yeah, the alcohol stopped working and it didn't work, and that happens to people. Not me. It worked all the way up until that night, and that was the first time that it didn't work, because I had just enough program in my head from that one meeting and I was kicking myself because I'm like, man, I went through all of this, and went down there, went through all of that, and here I am doing the same thing again. And the next day was my sobriety date, and that was 15 years ago.
Wow.
So,
So what's your sobriety date?
June 6th,
Okay.
2003.
Mine's June 21st, 2006.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, going back a little bit to growing up a pastor's kid, did religion pop up in your head at any?
All the time. I mean, that was one thing. It's like funny is that, in the beginning, like my first, couple weeks in sobriety, they had the steps all along the wall, and so I'm like, admitted we have a problem, got it, admitted that there's a power higher than us. Oh yeah, I got that. I'm like, I'm on step 7. You know what I mean? Like in the first, couple days, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on step 7,
Right.
because I already believe in God, and I've already turned my will and life over to the care of God as I understand Him. Oh yeah, I've done an inventory. I've done, and I'm like, yeah, I've got all this. I'm on step 7, right? But I never stopped believing in God. I stopped believing in the church and organized religion for sure. And even in my sobriety, I went back and did some work with the Salvation Army and there, and they didn't, and organized religion didn't cease to disappoint. You know what I mean? But I never stopped believing in God,
That's cool.
and I never lost that faith that there was a higher power and that there was something greater than me that was guiding everything. But I definitely looked at him and said, I believe in you and I love you, but your people suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the response was very, very clear to me was, I don't want you to follow my people, I want you to follow me. And I went, got it. Okay. I'm with you on that,
Yeah, my thing in rehab, because I went through rehab, was always like, G and I got it going on.
Right.
We're good.
Right.
Like, if he needs to send me a burning bush,
Right.
he will do it.
Right.
I understand him.
Right.
So in the mornings, people would laugh because I'd be like, G and I prayed already. We're good. Let's go have breakfast. We got this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went through your steps to sober up, to clean up. What then? Like, where does your life start turning?
Well, I made the funny thing is that a lot of people think that, okay, you need to get sober, then everything kind of, turns around for you. And that's not the case.
Right.
I mean, you have to work the steps, and it's a process, and the steps are numbered for a reason, and you got to go through them for a reason, and you may have to work them multiple times before it really starts to things start to change. Now, immediately my life physically started to change, because as soon as I got sober, I started to take care of myself physically and went back to the gym, because I walked into there, I was broken in every way you could think of. I mean, I was probably about 30, 40 pounds overweight. My hair was falling out. Now, that hasn't changed. But my skin was blotchy, my teeth were messed up. I mean, I was rotting from all the sugar and everything. And I felt like I was 60 years old. I was 30, 32, 33, and I felt like I was 60.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Still Gollum going on, man. Like, I look like Gollum, like a fat Gollum walking in it. And then plus I was spiritually, a wreck and emotionally and my self-esteem was in the toilet.
So no esteem, no faith, no goals.
No, nothing. And so immediately the things I started working on immediately were like, obviously my physicality and getting physically well again. I started, I went back to school because I'd never finished my degree. I'd never finished my bachelor's degree. So I went back and got back into school. And within, the first 5 years or so, I had gotten my degree and I got my master's degree. And then later, like I said, I went back and got my Master of Fine Arts. But within the first 5 years, I got my master's degree and had gotten a job as a college professor. And I was just that much alone was like, wow, where I've come in 5 years. But growing up, because you spend that, your entire 20s in addiction, you don't emotionally, you're stunted. You stay where you were when you started your addiction. So I was still an 18-year-old kid emotionally. And so there was a lot of anger issues that I had to work through, and my wife and I met 5 years ago, and I always say I'm glad I didn't meet you before then, because I wouldn't have been ready. You know what I mean? Like,
you would have hated me.
Yeah, you would have hated me because I was an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, I had a lot of anger issues, and I had another marriage before that in that time too. The whole thing just was wrong. It was, and it wasn't that I don't take the blame for that. She had a lot of really bad problems.
Well, because it's like.
Right.
We're all destroyed.
Yeah.
So we want somebody equally messed up, so we look semi-good next to them. Yeah.
Right. Well, in my addiction, I didn't even bother trying to have a relationship because I knew I couldn't. Because I had such low self-esteem. I'm like, I'm not worthy. Nobody wants to be with me. I'm a wreck. Yeah. And then when I finally got sober, I started to work on myself. I'm like, all right, I've got this good job, and I'm a college professor now, and I got a job. I was working as at Waterworld. Went back to Universal, and I was one of the performers up there, stunt performers up at Waterworld, and I was working as a professor. And then I had my own production company I had work going there, and I'm like, so I got these 3 jobs going on, and I now got a master's degree under my belt, and and now I've got this girlfriend, and like everything's going good. And it wound up, I bought a house, and it's just like I had 2 cars and a house and everything, motorcycles.
Perfect. Like
everything's going great. But I didn't realize that I still had a lot of work to do. That I still had a lot of issues that I had to deal with. But that came with time, and that came with working a program that that eventually I looked back and went, wow, just getting sober was just the beginning of the journey. Yeah. You know what I mean? And now 15 years later, I look at how much that I grew over that 15 years. And that first 5 years of my sobriety, I was still an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, I still had a lot of just messed up thinking, that I had to sort through, and a lot of issues that I had to work through.
Did you have any of those? Because I did the first 5 years. The urge to sabotage myself, to kind of hurt my journey, to mess it up, because I figured, okay, this is as much as I'm going to pull. 5 years is all I can handle.
Right.
Any more than this, like good stuff coming my way, it's just more responsibility. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I don't think I wanted to sabotage it in that sense. I think because I didn't really recognize it. I think, once I got my self-esteem back, I was like, all right, everything's great. You know what I mean? Like, because before I was really in my addiction, I had very high self-esteem. And then I bottomed out, and I lost all self-esteem in my addiction. And then once I got sober again, I got my self-esteem back. And so I didn't feel that I was unworthy of it. But I did a lot of things that I looked at, like in that first 5 years, that I was like, what was that? Like, what were you thinking? Like, why would you do that? Just, things that just very self-centered and selfish, behavior, that could have very, very easily sabotaged everything that I had worked for, at the expense of other people. But just because of my own selfish behavior, I
also think that sometimes at that level, because I've seen it now over the years with friends, that you're doing so well that you don't want anybody to come and mess it up. So you do kind of block people out, and you're like, no.
Right.
It's like Legos. I've spent so much time working on this shit. You're not going to touch it.
Right.
Don't touch it. So I think we all kind of go to that part. You just don't want people to come in. Energetically, I think we just protect ourselves from negative energies and negative people.
Well, I think we all have our own self-defense mechanisms, right? And it's recognizing what those defense mechanisms are, and and a lot of times our defense mechanisms can be very destructive, right? That they work to protect us, but at the same time, if we don't utilize them correctly, they can easily destroy things that we've built and things. If we don't learn how to, it's kind of like what was the Spider-Man saying? Is the power comes with great power comes great responsibility?
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing, and that if you don't learn how to control that, it's like for me, my anger was a defense mechanism, right? That if I can keep people away from me and keep them at an arm's length, then they can't hurt me, right? But at the same time, then that's also destroying relationships. And it's, my thing is, if people are afraid of me, then that's good. Now it's different. Like you said, when you first saw me, you were scared of me. Then I would have been like, good, keep away from me. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, that sucks. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I don't want people to be afraid of me. I want them to. I like people. I want to get to know people.
How did you start recognizing those fears of letting people in, and how did you start knocking them down?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it was one of those things that was so gradual that I don't even know that I noticed it. I think it was just, it's just getting out of self, and getting out of, the selfish behavior and thinking of others and working with others in sobriety. And I've sponsored a lot of people, and you start to do that. And what you start to realize is those kinds of things feel good, right?
Yeah.
Getting in road rage thing with somebody never feels good. Even if you win the confrontation, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel good. It's kind of like, or, getting into an argument on social media with somebody and going back and forth for 3 hours, arguing your point of view with somebody whose mind you're never going to change. Even if you win that argument, it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? And I started to recognize that getting in these confrontations, and literally like I like riding my bike, and I'm literally like, somebody would go by and yell out the window and thinking they're really funny, and then they get stopped at a stoplight. And I'd be like, yes, and I'd go right up there and in immediate confrontation. It's like, and I'm ready to pull you out of this car and watch their faces turn because someone who looks like me now in their car window, right. And they'd, and I kind of laugh about it, but I never felt good. It never felt good. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that, there aren't times that my wife gets freaked out because I do lose my temper when I'm driving or whatever, but I started to recognize that. Right. And I had started to work on patience, right? And that's one of the scariest things in the world is you pray for patience. God doesn't give patience. He teaches it. You know what I mean? And I'm oh shit, this is going to get ugly. You know what I mean? But he never sent me anything I couldn't handle. But you have to, and this is what I tell sponsees all the time, is that these defects of character, you have to start consciously working on them. Like, they're not just going to change. And when you go through the 6th step and you ask for those defects to be removed, he's not going to just go ping. It's not going to be, they're gone. He's going to help you work on removing those defects of character yourself, so that so that you live a healthier, happier life, right? Because doing right, and this is what my wife has taught me, is that she's an angel, and she's someone who people say, what do you think I say she's made me a better person, right? Because she's that person who I'm like, come out and I go, look at this, McDonald's didn't charge us, for that French fries, that, whatever, $1.20 French fries. And she's like, turn the car around, we got to go back and pay him. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I go, what? They're multi-trillion-dollar corporation. They're not going to. I've given them plenty of money. They can give me some freaking French fries, right? She's like, no. And why? Because it's the right thing to do. And I'm like, shit. Okay.
How dare you?
Yeah. All right. Fine. You go back and you do it, and you go, hey, that felt pretty good. You know what I mean? And so and so over time, that's kind of become my mantra is like, just do the right thing no matter what. Everyone else will do the wrong thing, but I will do the right thing no matter what. Take my dog out for a walk, and he'll take a dump on the neighbor's lawn at 11 o'clock at night. There's no one on the street. Easily walk away from it and go, "That's not my problem anymore." Nope, I'll pick it up. Had one time it happened just last week where I reached and I didn't even have any bags. I'm like, "Oh man!" And I came back here. I got a bag and walked all the way down the street just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I found that has made my life so much better to do that. Whereas doing the wrong thing, even though it might be easier, it might be more convenient, it never feels good in your soul.
In the end, yeah.
You know,
I used to argue with my partner about that. It's like I do things, good things, because it makes me feel good.
Right.
Like I went beyond. I go beyond the. Well, I hope they feel better about this, or I hope they enjoy it. Like, I feel good. I just want to do it because I feel good. I'm a little selfish.
Right.
I don't care if you enjoy the free food. I feel better about myself.
Right.
And it's so odd because as you're talking about road rage and online arguments, when I was going through treatment, I was that person. But I think because I was bored and I was mad, but I would be on the phone at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. If I wasn't shopping online, I was having debates with people.
Right.
At like 4 o'clock in the morning and just torturing them and just throwing random crap just to piss them off. And then when I was bored, I'm like, delete everything. Go to sleep.
Right.
I'm done.
Right.
And then now, I still have some issues to work through from my own illnesses, but I find myself not being very patient and like tailgating just people. And
Right.
Like, it's 75 here. Like, why are you doing 72?
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, I have to work on that.
I do that too. I mean, that's like I said. I'm not perfect, but what I have noticed too is, like, say with the road rage thing, is that, you know, if I get into an incident with somebody and flipping each other off, it rents space in my head for days. You know, I'll think about it for days. Just had an incident the other day. We're coming back, from the desert, and some woman, she cut me off. I cut her off. She came back and we started flipping each other off, and still to this day, I'm like, and this was a few days ago. Every now and then it comes up. I'm like, just. Whereas, I don't know how many times that I've made the conscious decision just to go. Somebody cuts me off, and I just go, whatever, and let it go. And I can't even tell you about that. I can't even remember what they are, because it's just so much better for your soul to let it go. And it doesn't mean I'm able to do it all the time, but I can testify that it's the right thing to do. Do as I say, not as I do. You know what I mean?
No, I go from Fruit Loops to Raisin Bran, like on the freeway, like, fuck you, fuck. Yeah, I'm like the butchest thing, and then I realize, like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, you're turning into dad. Like, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting to the point of the conversation, because we're 40 minutes in, where we send some words of wisdom to the listeners.
Okay.
So, Guy Noland, what words of wisdom do you have for everybody listening?
I thought I had been giving words of wisdom this whole
wisdomer.
time. Wisdomer wisdoms.
Yes.
That's a good question. I would say I would go back to do the right thing no matter what. Like, there's just nothing bad ever comes from doing good things and doing right things, and exercising patience. But you can't. The thing is that most, I firmly believe that most evil in this world stems from self, right? It stems from selfish behavior. Like, if you think of anything that ever happens in this world, whether it's human trafficking or racism or whatever, people say, well, that, like, racism stems from fear. But yeah, what is fear? Fear is self-preservation, right? It's taking care of self, right? I'm afraid of you because you're a gay man, and that's alien to me, and so I'm going to hate you because of that, and I'm going to hate against you because of that, or because you're Mexican and because you're trying to steal my jobs, and you guys are trying. that's just fear. It's fear that just stems from self-preservation, right?
Yeah.
And so, as a man, and look, a lot of my of who I am is based from fear. Like I train in martial arts. I've trained in martial arts for years. I'm well armed. I have, because of things that happened to me in my youth where I was helpless and I couldn't do anything about it, where I was bullied, or put in a position, that I wasn't comfortable with, or abused, by another person, and I couldn't do anything about it. And so that kind of fear of being helpless then, for me, transmogrified into, I'm going to push weights and get in shape and learn martial arts and stockpile weapons, and no one's ever going to be able to do that to me again, right? It's fear-based, right? It all comes from self.
Right.
And I think that's true with everything. Is why, a child molester, is to me is the most, people say it's the most evil thing that a person can do. No, it's the most selfish thing a person can do, right? The most selfish thing a person can do is totally destroy another human being's life, a child's life, for their own 30 seconds of pleasure.
Correct.
Talk about the most selfish thing in the world that you could possibly do. But people translate that into being the most evil. Well, to me, evil and selfishness are interchangeable, right?
Yeah.
And everything in this world that is horrible, that and I would say that anything that you hate, that's mean and nasty and evil, can all be traced back to self, right?
Yes.
And that person's own self-interest. People. I heard a great quote that somebody said. It's that people aren't against you; they're for themselves, right?
Exactly.
Nobody is ever out to get Daniel. They're just out to get whatever they want for themselves. And just depending, and the level of evil that somebody is only directly correlated to their level of selfishness.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I call it the whole mirror concept. It's like, what do I hate about you that I see in me?
Right.
And then I can figure it out.
Right.
And again, it was taking you, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what was it that I was seeing in you that I didn't like about me? And what I didn't like was that I was being, I was stereotyping.
Right.
And I'm like, shit, like, I can't believe I just did that.
Right.
Well, then, no, I'm going to break that. And,
Yeah.
And like, we're going to be friends.
But see, what you did was something that a lot of people don't do. And this is a problem that I see, too, in our own society right now, is that we're so divided. Is that everybody's standing on their side of the line, and nobody's reaching across and saying, hey, maybe we should just sit down and have a conversation and see if there's a common ground and see if maybe we would get along. And it's everybody, we hate you because you're a racist. And well, are you looking back at yourself and seeing what it is inside of you? Like, again, this is what I go through a lot. People are saying, you're a white male. Straight white male, you're the enemy. And that to me is hurtful, because I go, like, not diminishing racism or anything else. I'm not saying that to diminish that. I think that's all relevant as well. But to me, that's just as hurtful, because I'm like, yeah, but you're not getting to know me. Right. You know what I mean? You're not getting to know who I am. You are basically judging me based on the color of my skin and my gender, which is sexist and racist. You know what I mean? And please don't do that. Get to know me first. And see, you did something that most people don't do, and you reached out and said, you know what? I'm gonna reach across this divide and see if my fears are founded. I hope they weren't.
Yes.
But for me, that's what the crux of all of these problems that we're having today are in our society is revolves around the self, right? And everybody in fear, and everybody being afraid, and and I stand firmly in the middle with a foot in both camps, and I look at both sides and I go, no, look, you idiots, no one's coming across. These 4,000 immigrants aren't coming up here to invade our country. They're coming here for asylum. To quit being assholes. Mm-hmm. And then I look over at the other side and I go, whatever the issue, you think that you're afraid of me because what I look like, but you're being as hypocritical as the people you're afraid of, right? And you're stereotyping based on your fears. And so you're both just being driven by self and fears, and that's what's causing all of these problems. And if you guys could just come and meet in the middle, that's too much to ask, but but for me, it's a long answer to a short question is, if everyone could just stop and just see what drives them and why they do things. Because I always said that you could take the most holier than thou conservative religious people, and you could take the most holier than thou woke vegan activists, right?
Yeah.
You pick any one of them from either side. They're most holy on either side, and take a look behind the curtain. You will see horrors.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never denied the skeletons in my closet. So yeah, but you're right. There's equal racism. There's equal bigotry. There's equal homophobia. Everything's on both sides.
Right.
We just call it a different thing.
Right.
Yeah, because I grew up around a lot of white people, and then I lived in Mexico for a long time, so I really didn't understand what racism was about.
Right.
And then when I came back to the States, I was like, oh. I remember making a comment about some black guys that I went to school with, in trade school, and the white people were like, oh my God, you can't say that. I'm like, why not? Because you're being racist. I'm like, I saw it on TV. How can it be racist? Like, that's stupid. Yeah, and I used to tell my partner, I'm like, the only reason I want to marry you is so I can get a green card. But I'm a citizen now, so I don't need that anymore. So good for me.
Well, that was my first experience with racism. Again, was typically my parents being pastors. We were always stationed. They were always stationed in lower income areas. So my brother and I, no matter where we were the minority. So everything we learned about racism was from the other side, about people. And I remember my first thing, we were living in an all-black neighborhood down in Lakewood. And we were literally the only white kids in the neighborhood. And I remember somebody saying to me that, well, you can't come over to my house. Why not? Because you're white. And I'm like, what? Like made no sense to me. Like, I was like, and the kids coming around and said, oh, the KKK's coming. I'm like, what's the KKK? And they said, they hate black people. And I was like, why? And they're like, because they're white and they hate black people. And I said, oh, well, I'm safe. I'm white. And they're like, no, they hate people who are friends with black people too. And I went, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm like, ruh-roh. Yeah, I'm in trouble. But that was the first, I'll just never forget. And these Roland and Tabitha were the two friends that I had that lived at the end of the street. And they said, you come over to our house and go for a swim. They had a pool. And we didn't have a pool. I'm like, great, And so let me get my swimsuit on. I went down, and I'm 6 years old. And I go walking down to my towel over my shoulder, and I knock on the door, and their father answers the door. And I said, I'm here to go swimming with Roland and Tabitha. And he looks at me, he says, they're not here. And I went, really? That's weird. Like, I just talked to him 5 minutes ago. That's really weird. So I walk around. Of course, I don't know what's going on. I walk around, look over the back fence, and there's Roland and Tabitha in the backyard swimming in the pool. So I walk back around, and I knock on the door. He said, yeah. And he said, you must be mistaken, sir, because they're in the backyard. And he went, come on in. But I had no clue. You know what I mean? So this was, and there's, I have story after story after story after story growing up. We moved to, all Filipino neighborhood and getting chased home from school because we were white. And, I then we went to an all Mexican neighborhood and 8 years in an all Mexican neighborhood. I could tell you story after story after story of that, of where I learned about racism, but it was always from the other side of it.
Yeah, well, even in Mexico, there's racism among Mexicans,
right?
Just from the different tones of brown that we have. Yeah,
right.
Who knew there were so many browns in the crayon box? So now that we're making a little bit of jokes about things, let's talk about your career a little bit more. Because obviously we talked about this at the beginning, meeting in stand-up comedy class. At what point do you feel comfortable being in front of a camera or being on a stage, or how did that come about?
Well, I grew up, like I said, in theater. My parents, though they were ministers, they were both very creative people. And when I was 6 years old, they wrote a musical.
Oh.
And my mom did the music, my dad wrote the script, and they wrote in a part for a 6-year-old boy to play, and that was kind of the beginning of my journey on stage. And then I loved it, and so I continued being in theater my whole life, all the way growing up. And then, like I said, I came to Hollywood and was going to be famous, and instead I became a drunk.
Tomato, oranges.
Yeah, whatever, same difference. But I got into behind the scenes stuff, and so I was doing a lot of writing and directing and producing. So I did that for years, and I had, I'd have these little outlets where I would perform, whether it was, theater that I was working in and producing for, and I would take parts in the shows, or I was working at Waterworld, like I had mentioned, that I would perform in front of an audience and be able to do that. And so I had taken over. I'd become the head of the media for the Salvation Army in the Western United States, and so I kind of put performing aside, and I did that for about 4 years, and then I left there and came back freelancing, and I had said to my wife, I said, I really I need an outlet, like I need a performance outlet. I haven't performed in years, and I really need something to do. And I said, I think I'm gonna go back and try stand-up comedy again. And she's like, okay, sounds good. So I got a few minutes together, and then I went down. There's open mic down in Eagle Rock, Silver Lake, and I went up, and I my 4 minutes, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought I had pretty good 4 minutes, and it was just other comics in the crowd, like most open mics, and just crashed. I mean, bombed bad, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I don't know. See, because me, it's like, a lot of people getting up on stage, for the first time.
Right.
It's just the stage, they're very nervous, and there's, getting used to talking in front of people. Well, I'd spent my whole life on stage. I was a college professor, so talking in front of groups that was all very natural to me.
Right.
So there was no issue there. And I was a writer. I mean, I'd gotten 2 degrees in screenwriting, so I got the writing and I've got the performance. Just put them together. This is no problem.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm going, I don't know what this means. Like, I bombed, and I'm like, this is like crickets. Like, not a single laugh in 4 minutes. And I'm going, what is this? I go, so was it the material? Is it my delivery? Is it them? Like, I'm getting no feedback, so I don't know what's going on. So.
Right.
I don't want to keep doing it. Like, do I throw the material out or do I rework it? I have no idea. And so I'm looking around, and that's when I came across the Cool Beans at Ice House. And the thing that caught my attention was you do a performance in the Ice House, the second room, in front of a full house. And I'm like, that's worth the price of admission right there.
Right.
Just getting the feedback from the audience is, And so I went and I audited a class. Corey, I got a contact with Corey. He said, yeah, come on down and check out the class. And I audited their class, and I said, yeah. Matt and Corey seemed really like they knew what they were doing. I'm like, all right, I'm going to check this out. So I talked to my wife about it. I'm like, you cool with me paying to do this? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. So I went down there and I did the class, and I was like, it was such a great, they give, those guys give really great notes. And it was exactly what I needed, right? It's to develop material and then have notes, right? And have, people who know what works.
What they're talking about, yeah.
To give you an honest opinion. And you get to do, you do 5 weeks in front of other people. So the same number of people that I did it at the open mic, right? And, the other people in the class. So if there's 6 or 7 people, in front of you that are giving you some feedback, with laughter. And then getting notes from, and you do it twice a week, and once in front of Matt and once in front of Corey, and you get that feedback, and this is working and this isn't working, and you do that for 5 weeks.
Right.
That's great, man. I'm like, this is great. And then at the end of it, you go up and you do it in front of a full house. Have you done it yet?
Not the full house yet.
Oh,
This is my
great.
first run.
It's great. You're going to be blown away. But it's when you get up there, how much energy there is. It's
I'm already crapping my pants.
Oh, you're gonna, at the end of it, it's better than any drug. You're just gonna be like, what have I been doing? Why have I've not been doing this? And that was it. The first time I went up, I was really surprised because you're used to doing it in front of 6, 7 people, and then you get up there in front of 75 people, and the place is just rocking, and you're like, oh, it works. Like, this works. Like, they're laughing. It works. And it's just like better than any high ever. And after my first time, I was like just buzzing, and I did the 8 o'clock show, and a couple of the people from the 10 o'clock show had dropped out. And so Corey came, he goes, you want to jump on the next show? And I'm like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? But it was great because the first show I went up last. I learned a lot because in the first show I was last one up, which means, and I had a lot of friends in the audience, which means that by the time I got up, everyone was warmed up, they were liquored up, and there were a lot of people who knew me. So they were hot. It was a hot crowd. And the second show I went up second, cold crowd, sober, nobody knew me. And it was, I didn't bomb, but the last round, very different places and different things, and like to be able to do that was amazing.
Now, earlier you mentioned that the relationship that you're in wouldn't have worked out
right
when you were younger. Would what you're doing now, would that have worked when you were younger?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. I think, that's one of the things that because I did it, I went and dabbled in stand-up comedy in my late 20s. And again, I don't know why I walked away from it. I was doing open mics. I think it was the tedium of open mics that I just kind of went, But I had a little bit of success. I mean, there was a couple times that I killed and a couple times that I crashed. But I guess I just didn't really see where the future was in it.
Got it.
And so I just kind of walked away from it. But I often think that, oh man, I wish I would have stuck with that, then, because that was, 20 years ago. I'd have been a lot further along. I think I'd have been a lot further. I hope I was alive.
Yeah,
I hope I would be a lot further along.
We probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. If you could go back to the day that you arrived in LA and talk to yourself as a younger, what would you tell?
I wouldn't say anything. I'd just slap the beer out of my hand. Just slap the drink out of my hand. Don't do that, you asshole. And then I'd say, and invest in Bitcoin early. And sell by January 8, sell before January 18. That's what I tell myself. Buy Bitcoin and sell it before January 1st, 2018.
I always think October 2018. Here's the numbers. It's going to be a big one.
I mean, like the thing is, I don't know that there's anything that I could have said to myself other than, look, the drink is going to ruin you. You know what I mean? It's going to set you back 10 years. Because I always say, too, to my sponsors, like, I wish I lost a good 10 years of my life. I mean, I was out there for, about 15. But I lost a good 10 years of, that I could have been being productive. Yeah. And I always say that if I had known then what I know now, I'd be a millionaire right now. You know what I mean? Because just in the last 15 years, the progress that I made, over the 15 years that I was drinking and then the 15 years sober, night and day, and in the next 15 years, I'll be where I should have been today, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
I keep thinking that, like, in these 11 years, what I've accomplished, had I done that when I was younger, and had all that much more energy before all the illnesses and body issues.
Right.
Like, damn it, I would have been really hot and rich right now.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm still hot. But
right, exactly. Can't have everything.
Let's not diminish that, yeah.
Yeah, you can't be hot and rich. Yeah.
So before we go, if there's somebody out there that's having a hard time with whatever addiction or whatever personal issues they're having, and they just need to hear that one encouraging word,
I would say, first and foremost, don't look for your joy or your reprieve in other people. people will let you down. You will never find it in other people. You will never find it in relationships. As I said, by nature, we are selfish. Human beings are selfish, and we're always gonna look out for ourselves first. And so don't look for your joy and your reprieve in others. You got to look for it in yourself. And if you can't find it there, it means there's something there that you're missing. You need to work on, and you need to work on it. And the only one who's going to make that happen is you. Nobody else can give you your joy. Nobody else can give you what you want in life. And the only person that can do that is you. And I remember thinking again, like, whenever I wanted to do something, the thing that gave me motivation was, like say, losing weight. I can be the same weight in 6 months, or I can be where I want to be in 6 months. And the only way that's going to happen is if I start working on it now. And if I start working on myself now, I can be, my friend who's a doctor, I remember him saying kind of the same thing. He was like, when we were younger, he was like, look, I'm going to be 40 someday. And I can be 40 and be a doctor, or I can be 40 and be, a cashier at Walmart. You know what I mean? I'm going to be 40 someday, and just what I am when I'm 40 is going to depend on what I'm doing right now. And that's kind of the what I've lived my life by, is that whatever you want to do in life, you're going to get to wherever you are at some point by doing what you're doing now. So if you do nothing now, then in 10 years you'll be in the same place. But if you want to, it's kind of what I'm doing with real estate right now. I'm like, we bought this duplex, and but I started 7 years ago buying a little house and building, because I said, I'm going to retire someday. You know what I mean? Like, and I can retire with nothing, or I can retire with, income and real estate, but I got to start now. And so that's kind of where, whether it's material things or it's whether in your own life, you want to be happy. In 10 years, you can still be miserable, or you can be happy. But the only way you're going to do it is if you start now. And you start working on yourself now, and because happiness doesn't happen overnight. It grows with work. And I tell everybody, whether you're an alcoholic or an addict or not, you should work the 12 steps. Because the 12 steps, if you work them, will tell you how to get your life back and get happiness. Because it's not just drug and alcohol that destroy our lives. It's all kinds of other things. It's depression. It's selfishness. It's food. It's whatever that thing is that you're turning to bring you happiness. Instead of finding it inside of you, is what's causing you to be unhappy, right? So if it's food that you turn to make you happy, if it's relationships, other people, if it's whatever it is, if it's if you're suffering from depression or whatever. You got to find your joy, and you're not going to find it in those things. You'll find temporary relief in those things, in alcohol and drugs and food and sex and whatever it is, and relationships, whatever. You'll find that temporary, but you will never find that long-term joy. And the only way you're going to find that is if you start working on yourself. And you can be in a year, 2 years, you can be happy, or you can be where you are today. It just depends on you.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, we ran out of time. We've gone to the hour.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a second.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more that I know we didn't even get to. But for now, I want to thank Guy Noland for being on the show. Comic Guy Noland, thank you, sir.
Yeah, man.
I want to thank producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Remember, go check us out at abnormalentertainment.com. Find me at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube under Daniel G. Garza or Little Mexican. Check out for anything new coming up. And if you want to be on the show, just get in touch and we'll connect you. For now, thank you, Guy. Thank you, Mr. Moyers. And thank you all for listening. This is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
This is how I put it together.
This is how I put it together.
This is how I put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.